Hello. We're back in the original setup of the channel. This is where I started filming videos, if I remember correctly. It was right here on the floor of my bedroom. And since my spare bedroom is a disaster of boxes and bags because my movers are coming in 3 or 4 days, we are reverting to the original setup of the channel, and I owe you 2 months of eyeshadow palette usage. So I have April and May to share with you today. It's also the last thing that is getting on the way of me having all my makeup packed up. So I gotta get things going. I gotta get off the couch and I have to tell you how we did in April and May. So April was a stack of palettes like you usually see in these videos. In May, I did things a little bit differently and I have a much smaller group of eyeshadows. In fact, mostly single eyeshadows. So we will talk about where those things are going, how I did with both the palette stack for April and the little bits and bobs that I had in May, and what's gonna happen with some of these eyeshadows moving forward. Why? Because some of those eyeshadows were in what I called my retirement tour. I expected to move much further and have to pack my makeup in much more concerning circumstances. I expected to probably move across continents and needing to ship my makeup really far away. That's not happening. I'm moving about an hour north from where I live, so I just have to put my makeup in storage. So there are some things that are on the retirement tour that I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do with them. I think I'm gonna just roll them into the summer, and then I'm gonna use them for the couple of weeks that I have of summer holiday, and then I'm gonna phase them out, because during the summer months I'm not gonna have a palette stack. I'm not gonna be choosing palettes for the month because I'm gonna be away from my entire makeup collection in the Middle East, and I'm gonna be in the US with a substantial but limited availability of makeup, so things are gonna be looking a little bit different. Okay, enough yapping, let's talk about April. Here is the stack of palettes that I was using during April. Let me just show you what all the palettes are. I'll just go from right to left over here. So this is Glam Light Raw Raw Raggy from the Scooby-Doo collab. This is Pat McGrath's Celestial Odyssey, which is their 2021 holiday release. This is Unearthly Cosmetics Fairy Frolic. This is Unearthly Cosmetics Not Normal, the old version. This is Natasha Denona Zendo. This is Nomad Cosmetics Haunted Europe. This is Unearthly Cosmetics The Sleepover Palette. And this is Nomad Tokyo Harajuku. As you can see, heavy on the indie brands. Indie brands are taking a significant portion of my makeup collection, and what I'm gonna do also, because this is another update that you would probably be expecting if you've been on the channel for a while. Usually I film makeup collection videos in April. I didn't do that this year. Instead, I'm gonna roll my makeup collection videos to end of July, beginning of August, which is the beginning of the academic year, when I return home to the Middle East and I have my entire makeup collection available to me, and I will be unpacking my makeup collection in my new spot. This is what I was working with in April. We're just gonna go same way as usual, from the palette that I use the least to the palette that I use the most. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's get going. Apologies if you see the light changing, but we are approaching sunset hours here and I'm not using a ring light because otherwise it would wash me way too much. So if you see some changes in the natural light and it looks kind of odd, I apologize. I will try to be as succinct as possible so that you are not dealing with drastic changes in lights. With lease uses, I actually have a triple tie, which are triple? Yes, a triple tie. We have the Unearthly Cosmetics Sleepover palette. I was actually kind of surprised I didn't use it as much, but it is a palette that for me is very reliable for pink makeup looks, so I did use it twice. Then we have the Scooby-Doo and Glam Light Raw Raw Raggy palette. I also used it twice. Used the mattes. The mattes are pretty good, but I think the shimmers are a much more solid formula. I'm excited to try more of their shimmers, a little meh on their mattes. And then I also use Nomad Haunted Europe twice. Love the looks that I got from this one. It is a really versatile palette, just more, they are pretty bold colors, but still not as bright as some of the spring palettes that you typically see. Again, I maintain that this is color for dark souls. So it is an option that I think can give you color, but without making it too shrill, too in your face, very easy to modulate. I really like the shimmer quality of this because the shimmers are, again, more muted. They give you high shine if that's what you're going for, if you want to pack them that way, but otherwise it's a little bit more mysterious and quiet, you know. getting you ready to walk into the forest. Those are the palettes that I used twice during April. Then with 3 uses each, we have this duo from Unearthly Cosmetics, which are the Not Normal palette and the Fairy Frolic palette. Remember, Not Normal doesn't look like this anymore. It has been reformulated and expanded. So I have half of what the palette looks like right now. I have this 12 pan palette. I really like this palette. The more that I use it, the more that I like it. The mattes are really solid. I do wish that we had a slightly shinier shimmer somewhere here, but for a palette that has more muted shimmers, it does do the trick, and the mattes are really solid and you get really, really good color payoff. And then Fairy Frolic, out of all the Unearthly palettes that I have, I would say this one is probably my favorite, believe it or not. I think that it's warm neutrals, but with a tiny bit of brighter pops of color. So it ends up being really practical and really easy to use on the everyday, but with a few pops of color that can give you like a little bit of whimsy if that's what you want. Fairy is my favorite shade in the palette. Those 2 from Unearthly Cosmetics got 3 uses in April. And then we finished April actually with strong numbers. There were really no palettes that surpassed any of the others in terms of usage. I used this stack pretty consistently. And the last group of palettes that I have here, I used 4 times each during the month. This is gonna be these 3. So we have Natasha Denona Zendo, Nomad Tokyo Harajuku, and Pat McGrath Celestial Odyssey. Let's talk about Zendo first. I really expected to get a new pan in this palette. I expected to hit pan on this shade. What is this shade called? Yama, and that didn't happen. Then I thought it was going to be Sense, and that didn't happen either. But that's okay. I did expand some of the pans that I already had, like this one, and especially this cream to powder called Mindful. I did expand this pan quite a bit. So I'm happy with that. Zendo continues to deliver. I love this color story. I think it's beautiful, and I used it 4 times. Then we have Nomad Tokyo Harajuku, which is just an explosion of pastels and like delicate blossom shades. I love it for that reason. And although I not only use it in the spring, it is the quintessential delicate spring colors. If you want like kind of very whimsical shades and pastels with some bolder shades like this one. And then these shades on the bottom are, I don't know that I would call it multi-chromes. They are shifty shades. Let's say that. They're shifty shades. I had a lot of fun using most of these as inner corner highlights during April. But of course, like I really like the mattes in this palette because again, I think that the pigment color payoff is really, really solid. From the older palettes that I have from Nomad, between this one and Iceland Fire and Ice, I would say that I probably find this one a little bit more fun to play with. 4 uses for Nomad Tokyo Harajuku in April. And if you've been here any amount of time, you know that I bring that palette back from time to time. Again, when I want to have an option that gives me brighter colors that are not too bold and not too loud, just more delicate and more floral shade leaning, let's call them that. And then the last palette for my April stack, and again, I used this 4 times, was Pat McGrath Celestial Odyssey. I will say this, I think that in the time that I've had this palette, and I got it when it launched in holiday of 2021, I would say that this time was probably the time that I struggled the most to use it. I don't know if it's because I mostly stayed away from the pinks. I used other shades, but I found myself not having as much fun with it as I usually do, which I found kind of strange. And I don't know how to feel about that, but it is something that I'm gonna keep my eye on. I still think that the eyeshadow palette is really user-friendly and versatile, and the shades are beautiful, and you have some shimmers here with a lot of high shine, which is great. I don't know, like it wasn't that I was feeling forced to use it, and it wasn't that I didn't like the looks, but I was just kind of, okay. I don't know. I just wasn't as excited as I usually am to use it. However, I did use it 4 times. And that is the April palette stack. Before we move on to talking about my May eyeshadow use, let's talk about exactly what I used in May, because I didn't introduce it formally in a video since there was no palette stack video in April. I didn't show you how I use my shadows in April. I'm showing you now. So I didn't show you what I was gonna use in May. May is basically bits and bobs of items that were on the retirement tour, with one exception. let me show you the exception first. I decided to pull back my Danessa Myricks Groundwork palette because I needed to have something, again, to kind of lay foundations. So I did bring this back in May. Yes, we'll talk about that pan in a minute. I also brought in for May my 3 e.l.f. Liquid Duochrome eyeshadows. These were on their time and tour because I was having a really hard time getting anything out, and I was afraid that they were drying down, and I wasn't sure I was gonna keep them. I also had my Natasha Denona Mini Nude palette. That poor thing, it is beaten to hell. I planned to discard it because I wasn't sure that it was going to survive a big move, so the packaging is completely broken. I wanted to get a little bit more use out of it in May. And then I had 5 Ritual de Fille samples that I bought, I want to say last fall or maybe the fall before, of their eye suit cream eyeshadows. So I have Love Spell, which is like a copper, Flora, which is a dimensional lavender. That's their description. Ooh, can't show you because it is completely tattered. Even though I repressed it, it's very crumbly. So that already gives me second thoughts on any resemblance of keeping it. I also have Mineralia, which is a chocolate brown. This is one of my favorites of the 5 that I have. Probably my second favorite, Mineralia. Serpent de Mer, which is a burnt taupe violet with a bronze sheen. I really like that one too. But my favorite of these 5 is Cultist, and this is the one that I'm most likely to repurchase. This is a gray taupe with a gold sheen. Let's talk very briefly about how I used and how many times I used these bits and bobs in May. Oh, I'm actually seeing in my notes that there is a palette that I used twice that is not here. I can't show it to you because it's already packed away, which is the Wicked Widow Resurrection palette. I was just feeling like I needed something different those days, and if you've seen that palette, you know that it is a lot of color. It is like a rainbow palette with primary colors and multi-chromes and very strong mattes, very artist color palette kind of shades, but also a lot of really fun multi-chromes. A palette that you can play a lot with. I did use it twice, I just can't show you, but it is in the group of eyeshadows that I used the least in May. I also used e.l.f. Mermazing and Ritual de Fille Cultist twice. Let me just show you e.l.f. Mermazing. I really love the comment that Sarah from Already Shopped It left in my Instagram when I posted my swatch on the days that I used it, because it's like, I love it when you bring this one out because it's so cool. I mean, it is a beautiful shift. So I took out the stopper and I'm still getting a lot of eyeshadow out of there, but I'll probably take it home to the US for the summer, use it throughout the summer, and then discard it because I still have a little bit there. And since it shuts, like it closes pretty tightly, I'm not concerned that it's gonna spill or anything like that. I'm just trying to get a swatch out of Cultist so that you guys can see. This is Cultist, not the strongest swatch in the world because I actually don't have a lot of this to go. This is all pan, and then I just have like that other side of it. So overall, I would say I have maybe a third of the eyeshadow left. I am seriously considering repurchasing it and actually keeping the full size with me. Here is a better swatch of Cultist. There you go. There you can see that taupe. These are eyeshadows that I used 3 times, and they are all singles. First off, we have e.l.f. Liquid Duochrome eyeshadow in Venus Envy. I also took the stopper off of this one, so I'm gonna just show you a baby swatch over here. Everything is messy now that I've taken the stopper off. Here you go. You can't really see the green shift. You can see a little bit of the pink and the lavender there. Not the best lighting for this, but hopefully you can see it kind of here on the screen. I used this 3 times. And then 3 of my Ritual de Fille little samples of the eye suits I also use 3 times. One is Serpent de Mer. You have Ritual de Fille Serpent de Mer right here. I used that 3 times. I also have Ritual de Fille Love Spell, so Love Spell is that copper down there. Really nice shade for a one and done look if you are wearing warm toned makeup. These are very easy to like work with and spread through your lid, whether you have a brush or you're using your finger. So I find them quite versatile and I appreciate that. And then the last one is Ritual de Fille Mineralia, which I also used 3 times. It looks really sooty, eye suits, and like murky, but again, this is a shade that I really love for like a super effortless smoky eye. So I do that when I use it sometimes, and it is a great one and done as well if you want a very simple night makeup look. I actually think that if I remember correctly, I used Mineralia all over the lid, and then I gave a little bit of extra shine with Venus Envy on top. If I remember correctly, that was one of the 3 looks that I did. Let's move on to Ritual de Fille Flora. Ritual de Fille Flora I used 5 times, and I repressed it during the month of May, and I repressed it once before at least, and it crumbled again. So I don't know that this one is gonna make it. I might get rid of it on moving day because I really hate having to deal with crumbly eyeshadow. But it is a really nice lavender. It's really hard to see here because the light is not helping me, but hopefully you can see a little bit of that sheen. And also there's just not a lot left here, but I did use it 4 times. Then I also have e.l.f. Cyber Pink, which is the last one of those liquid shadows that are duochromes that I have from e.l.f. This one I used 5 times. And this one I would say is a little bit more shifty. You can see the swatch down there. You're getting the pink, but there's quite a bit of yellow on that. So you're seeing it pink, I'm seeing it yellow and green. I am making a mess of a swatch so that hopefully you can see the shifts a tiny bit more. There you go. I have to get messy with this one so you can see the shifts, but there's a little bit of green, there's a little bit of yellow, and there's a little bit of pink in it. I would say that pink is probably the strongest shift that you get out of this one. I used e.l.f. Cyber Pink 5 times, and then I used my Natasha Denona Mini Nude palette 6 times. I was hoping to hit pan on this shade, and I can see something there that looks kind of like the pan coming, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. But this pan expanded significantly since the last time I had it on a palette project. So I'm really happy with the usage. I'm still not entirely convinced if I'm going to repurchase it, but I will get rid of it because it's just in too much of a fragile state, and it's gotten plenty of use. So I don't feel bad about throwing it away. It's just the packaging is in very bad condition. I'm not comfortable traveling with it, leaving it in storage, moving it around, or anything like that. Last but not least, we have my most used palette from May, which naturally is the Danessa Myricks Groundwork palette. I used this one 7 times. Technically, I used it way more because I'm using the powder of this shade, Tourmaline, for my eyebrows. I'm using it as an eyebrow powder at the moment, but I'm not counting that as part of my eyeshadow usage project. That's like aside from that, but I am using that shade as my eyebrow powder at the moment, and it works beautifully for that. As you can see, I also expanded the pan in the shade Bark, in the putty shade Bark, so now it is definitely a lot more visible than it was last time. I will continue to use this palette, and you're probably gonna see it in my summer shop my stash video with the makeup that I'm gonna be taking home for summer break, because it is a very useful palette. What do you want me to tell you? I know that for some people, it's a mixed experience. I know that some people have strongly mixed feelings with it. For me, it has been incredibly helpful. I've also moved into using these 2 shades either as eyeshadow primer or like lid setting shades, eyeshadow primers. And I'm using them as base with multi-chromes and liquid shadows like the e.l.f. ones, depending on which shift I want to show more. Because if you notice, this one has a lot of yellow and this one's mostly gray. So it's gonna give you a base for different colors within a multi-chrome to show more. So I've enjoyed the use of those 2 putties for that a lot during May. And it's one of the ways in which I think that this palette really is very useful, because you can get like eyeshadow primer, lid setting shades. Some of these can be used as like bronzer and contour. This can be used as a contour for like very light skin tones and stuff. I use this as an eyebrow powder. Like, you can do a lot with this, you really can, which is why I use it as much as I do. If I had to guess, from the palettes that I used in the academic year 24-25, this is probably the palette that I use the most. It is just incredibly helpful. And yes, the putties, I would say, are a bit of a learning curve, but I think that is a worthy learning curve to take. So that is it for April and May. I am still working. I have like 2 days of work left, and I'm not going home for the summer break until next week. So I know that I have like a couple dinners and goodbyes and, you know, like farewell parties and that kind of thing to go to. So I will be using a little bit of makeup in the next 7-8 days. So it's probably just going to be an extension of what I used in May, those little single shadows that are on my retirement tour. And then some of them will be decluttered and some of them might make it. Stay tuned to to find out which ones make it. Here's a preview of my summer shop my stash. What I'm taking home for summer break. This one is definitely coming with me because they're colorful, but some of them can be like really like sweet neutrals. And it is like, these are like the easiest one and done shadows ever. Because all you need to do is tap that shimmer on your lid, mascara, you're good to go. I'm not even wearing eyeliner today, y'all. Okay, it's just that shadow, it's just infusion. Here it is, mascara, boom. And in the summer, I am very much about easy because I cannot be bothered to fuss. Like, I slow down significantly during the summer. Long mornings of coffee, watching racing, then going to the gym, making a big lunch, my husband grills, we go for walks on the beach, easy peasy. So I'm not gonna be like doing full beats or anything like that. Like, that is not gonna happen, okay? So I need easy makeup, a lot of one and done shadows. That's gonna be the vibe, okay? That's gonna be the vibe. Tell me what you've been using in your eyes during this springtime. Are you bringing back the color? Are you going into your pastels? Are you doing neither of it? Are you using like multi-chrome eyeliners? How are you incorporating color into your makeup? Or if you are incorporating color at all, or are you still, you know, in your safe neutral corner? Whatever you're doing, I hope that you're having fun with your makeup because that's what I am all about. Makeup should be about having fun. I have a lot of fun with mine, which is why I love to do these reports for you. Thank you once again for joining me in my adventures with makeup. If you like this type of video, please give it a thumbs up. And I hope that it encourages you to dig into your collection and find something to have fun with in the next couple of days. I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.